Hello and welcome to the Face Downs, your source for TCG news and all things Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm Lucas.
I'm Ruben.
I'm Joe.
And hello, everybody joining us on YouTube. This is our first audio and visual medium.
Yeah, we finally worked out how to turn the camera on. We're old.
Yeah.
We're old people. We don't know how to use technology.
After years of reading cards, we've decided to read computer manuals.
Yeah.
And so here we are able to record and provide with some visual content. We're super excited to do, branching out in the new year. How is everyone doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Can't even remember what happened last week. Oh, it was a bit of a quiet hobby. We had a lot of people isolating, so I think there's about 10 or so people. Had a few returning players though, which was cool to see. We had Huggy, who is the 2005 national champion, coming back to play, so that was quite exciting to see someone of that caliber back in Palmy. Yeah, but apart from that, it was an alright weekend. How about
My
you guys?
first year in primary school, 2004. It was great. We're back in. Lucas and I are back in the game and have attended many hobbies. Lucas has achieved a pretty good success.
Yeah, I haven't lost a game since I got back in, baby.
Yeah.
We're 7-0, and we're going to try and keep that one going until at least the end of the 3v3.
Which is super exciting. I think, the game's kind of circle back, and we're really into it. Ghost has introduced some cool stuff. The Albers Strike deck has obviously arrived to us here, so definitely super healthy right now. I think a lot of great strategy going on. But I think, there we are. Albers Strike. Be sure to head to your local game store and pick one up, or three if you want a good strategy.
I was going to say, they're already sold out.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
But yeah, as always, with a format nearly on the end, it is time for our, at this point, quarterly painful choice.
Yeah, well, the viewers back at home have been able to see it up on the screen the entire time because I am a genius of editing and have worked out how to do this live.
Fabulous.
So bear with me if I mess everything up. Don't worry about it. Fine. I don't want to edit this afterwards, so we're just going to roll with how it is.
We're providing it to you live. Recorded.
Unfiltered.
Yeah.
Unedited.
Unedited.
So this is our quarterly podcast where we, the Face Downs, take 5 cards that are currently on the Forbidden or Limited list, and each present a case for each of the 5 cards to each other. At the end of the presentation, we will all select one card that each person has chosen from the painful choice to essentially add back to the game or make that adjustment. Also, our little bonus content at the end is the Snatch Steal. This is inspired by the card Snatch Steal, who came back for exactly 3 months. This is where we take a card that is currently banned and bring it to 1 and see how it goes. And what do we think if it ever were to return to 1 for at least... I think these have been super fun to do. It was a really unique take on kind of ban list predictions because it's so easy to just kind of list 15, 16 cards that you'd love to see adjustments for, and it could get quite linked. So I think we're here to provide, some fun, insightful takes as players who not only are in the competitive scene, are part of the organization part of it, and people who enjoy communicating with their local players and understanding what people's faves and gripes are. I guess before we begin, how do we feel kind of coming to the end of this format? What's any emotions, anything that you're, kind of sad it might be leaving us, or, anything that you are happy to have played with?
I don't think there's anything in particular that I'm particularly sad to see go. I think most of the cards we're seeing in lots of people's ban list predictions are cards that are problems that need to be addressed. I'm more excited to see what Konami do with things coming off the list. I know that they experimented with cards this time around with the last ban list with like Snow, Destrudo, all those sorts of things. I'm hoping to see some more of that.
Astrograph,
yeah. I mean, I want to see more of that stuff. So I'm excited to see what they do with things that come off the list. What goes on the list is pretty routine and boring by now, but yeah.
I'm sad that VW is bad. That's kind of it. And I'm not going to play any favorites with this list. I'm going to put E-Telly to 4 or some stupid card that they would break VFD back to 1 or anything like that. But yeah, I think ultimately the format has course corrected to some extent. And I generally, obviously we kind of talk on the podcast a lot about, they should ban this and I'm so sick of this, etc. I really think people overreact a lot of the time and possibly should yes, it's tempting for like cards that have been really bad for our format just to ban them. But I think everyone's too used to that kind of mentality because of a few specific emergency bans. When in reality, a lot of the time, cards like Halka Fibrax start off a massive problem and then aren't the problem card. But everyone's also burnt from Firewall being the problem card ignored for a year. So I can see why people often just want the problem card gone right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I guess without further ado, let's begin
Get into
and
it.
activate painful choice. So,
Do.
Joe, what is your first painful choice?
I am going to go with the most boring, predictable one to start. And I'm going to say Verte Anaconda
Whoa, what?
banned.
That's crazy.
I just can't
Yeah.
believe you'd make such a left field decision. Walk us through it.
Well,
Actually, yeah, walk us through it. What's your reason for why Verte over something like Fusion Destiny or
yeah,
these
so
cards?
to be honest, like when we did the commentary on Greg's tournament, one thing we definitely noted was how Prank Kids, Phantom Knight, all these other decks would just literally revert into Verte to be like, this is now what we do. We're going to get this card we shouldn't get access to for absolutely no reason. And it made DPE a problem. I think if you ban Verte, you literally can just leave the rest of that engine completely alone because then you're playing 2 Garnets and 2 Fusion Destiny. And then that's a choice you're making now to play that. Rather than just being like, I could play 1 Fusion Destiny and Verte and like, that's fine, you know? So for me, Verte has been a problem for a while. It was a Wii problem back in Dragoon days. It's been a problem again through DPE. There may be a Fusion in the future where it's a problem again. I think it's completely busted. You can send Super Poly off this and like not discard a card. That's busted. But
Someone
funnily
did that to you
enough,
recently.
one thing I have to say about Verte is like we're actually seeing it dropped in quite a few like branded lists. Not everyone's on it. The Adventure branded are on it, but like a pure list generally doesn't have a Verte because it's the fusion kind of lock happens so fast that you don't really have time to make one, I suppose.
It's funny
and
because
you're-
I remember when I was playing Invoked Shadol, you played the invoked mandatory link monsters as
Mhm.
your light targets, and then you played Verte, like was the only link too.
And even then,
I
you
remember
barely
back-
went
I-
into it. Like,
Well, I remember back then it was kind of like, oh, sometimes you need to clear your field. Like you have like a construct you want to
So
send to
much on the
grave,
board, yeah.
and you've already used Gravity Controller and all of the actual Shadol cards, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, I just need like a generic link too. You know, you could like turn a stolen monster with tactics into something with it. Like it was just kind of like, you play this because it's the best thing. And sometimes you super poly your opponent with it. Very funny. But it was
Yeah.
never like the main, you never went into it as like the main play, even though you're a fusion deck. It's non-fusion decks that are actually,
the problem
Using
with the card,
fusion.
yeah.
and I
found,
think
yeah.
that hit as well would be like an indirect hit to so many decks. It would be a hit to Drytron. It would be a hit to even like I guess branded Tri Brigade. And then
Oh,
like
yeah.
a couple of other decks as well. Like there's Prank Kids, Phantom Knights. There's so many decks that shouldn't be using it, and they just get access to it for like no reason. And
Yeah.
and I
The
guess in
list
that
does go-
sense,
the list does go on and on.
yeah. So it's been a problem for a while. I think this is Konami's time to hit it. It reminds me a little bit of IO last list, where it went maybe a list too far, and now it's the problem. So I think it's its time now.
Yeah. And I mean, also, like, again, future product in mind, key elements as a strategy don't care about fusion spells. The entire design is that they activate when sent to grave. So realistically, there's not really much design space like an upcoming straight that's like, no, I need Verte to play. Kind of everything's correcting itself out. So it makes sense. Go. Lucas, what is your first painful?
My first painful choice, should we just get out of the way?
Sure, Dom.
It's Scythe.
Yep.
Oh,
So, well, actually, can we do a pog? Can we all do a pog to the camera?
3, 2, 1.
All right, cool.
oh, that's gonna be the thumbnail. I'm not happy
Yeah,
now.
for sure. No, I'm taking those. I don't know. I had a rant yesterday, 2 days ago, about floodgates. This is an annoying one. I think it's not very good right now. I think it's just okay, but the next time it's good, we'll be annoyed about it again. There's a link to that grabs it from the deck. There's no reason for this card to exist. There's no play pattern in which this card is fun. I can actually make an argument that Verte creates fun play patterns where, like you said, sending Super Poly is an interest. It's silly when it happens, but you're like, damn, that was kind of cool. Scythe is never cool. There's,
No.
maybe the first time you
Yeah.
see someone pop it with a Wonder Magician, you're like, oh, I can't believe you can do that. And then next
Like,
time,
cool.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, Baron too. Oh, wow. Where'd you come up with that, dude?
I mean,
Crazy.
Yeah, it's not really a surprise. I think the existence of Dagda really shot it forward in terms of accessibility.
Yeah.
And I think that
Yeah.
a lot of those floodgates that say you cannot are a bit of a tough time, especially the old designed ones. Things like you can trigger multiple scythes for some reason. Like if you were to ever play 2 and one was to get removed, you can still hit another one. Things like Artifact Sanctum can just bring it out from
Well, that's the thing.
deck.
It's like you can remove it from the field, and guess what? Its effect is still going on.
there.
And look, we've banned all these other cards like VFD, Shockmaster, Zaxel, all these cards that you can't negate after they've resolved. I think they should all go.
Yeah.
You can negate a barrier statue. You can deal with it. There's so many ways you can creatively deal with those cards. You can rip a DP out of the grave. You can't do anything to Scythe after it's resolved. I find that super boring.
Not to mention it's mandatory.
It's
so,
boring.
Those old style cards will never miss. Like there's never an opportunity where you go, oh, I guess I can't do it because
Your opponent can't ever forget to activate.
No.
it actually must activate and resolve.
That's stupid.
I think
love that.
my take on Scythe is like I've even played decks that are Scythe locking decks, and every time I resolve it, I just like it's not a satisfying win. It's a win, but it's not satisfying. You're like, haha, you got Scythe locked, you didn't have the out.
Yeah.
Cool.
It is worth noting this sort of retrospective hit because I don't think many decks are playing Scythe anymore.
No.
At least in the meta. And so this is kind of an addressing a future problem. I feel like the same thing happened with Utopic Zaxel, a card that was not really present in any good decks, but was kind of hit on the basis of,
well,
if this is ever good, then this is annoying. Yeah. So let's just get rid of it now. Get rid of every card in Yu-Gi-Oh! That just has a lingering, uninteractive floodgate effect. Keep all the Christias and the barrier statues you like. I'll play Chalice. We're fine.
Forbidden Droplets.
Yeah. But for these cards that you can't interact with favorably, that can be taken off the field by a DPE or a removal spell, so they dodge things like Droplets and Chalice, so that they just resolve, and it doesn't matter because they've resolved, and they resolve, you can't do anything about it. Hate that crap. Get it out of here.
It's too easy. Yeah, get it gone.
Too easy. Play Yu-Gi-Oh! Be good at Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually learn the deck. Ruben, what's your first pick? What is your first?
My first pick is probably a bit punchy, just because it's like a la Steel. But this is actually banning a Fairy Tale.
See ya.
I think that this one, for me, it's also just starting to pop up a bit too much now. Like, it got cute with Beatrice being able to send it index like Drytron in Virtual World. But now there's a strategy that actually incentivizes you fusion summoning using a light monster. So I think that there's a lot of kind of coexist, a bit tough. It being not pain, very powerful. The ability for it to play around the entire advanced engine simply if you don't use its effect when you normal summon it, have it live the next turn. It can also deal with works in tandem with cards like Scythe, where you can banish it off the cost, so it does a form of interaction.
Exactly. So
it's
annoying.
It's one of
these
those
two
cards,
together are real. They're a real piece of work when you put them together.
They're a real dynamic duo. So I think for me, it's just a matter of like accessibility. Also, whole interaction. Like Riser, powerful. It does again great. It enables a lot of chaos strategies. Potentially, it might be a bit too good going forward with again a strategy such like where all you do is really put stuff to grave.
Oh god, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, it's literally free. It's just free. Yeah, it's free.
It's a bit scuffed.
Yeah, I think with this one, Ruben, I don't think Konami needs to take this as a loss if it does happen, because they've gone, hey, look, let's try this card at 1, let's see what happens. It was a bit oppressive, it still is. I think, like, if you look at the YCS, like, most of the top lists are on Snow because it's that strong a card.
Oppressive.
Yeah, it's very oppressive. Like, once you have that set up, but whatever, like, they took it off to try it. I don't think it's worked, but at the same time, it's been a bit of fun.
It has been a bit of fun.
I think Snow for me is in the same realm as like cards like Pot of Greed or just Graceful Charity, in that there's like no downside for running this card.
No.
Pretty much every deck in the format at some point wants to discard a card. So this card represents a free card to discard. It's an interrupt. It costs nothing to activate. Like banishing from grave at this point is not a cost. It's
No.
so easy to get 7 spells engraved, even outside of decks like Sky Striker. You're just putting them there, and yeah, she's free. It's
And-
like, why would you not play this if you couldn't? Like, it's there's no
And
deck
even
building
in,
restriction to this.
Yeah, like people go, oh, but what about these things in my grave that I need for later? But if you got
You
14
win.
spells in your grave, you've just won anyway. Like it doesn't
If you banish
matter.
your whole
Like,
grave and it stops your opponent from playing, you win.
Yeah.
You win the next turn. That's how Yu-Gi-Oh works. There's no
Exactly.
third turn.
A level 4 book on legs with 1850 attack
Yeah.
is nothing to scoff at.
Like the amount of times I've banished 14 cards off Snow in Virtual World, a graveyard deck, and been like, that's fine. I win
Yeah.
here.
I book you twice.
I attack for game. Like
Yeah.
Snow can activate in the battle phase. It's
Mm.
insane.
All right,
it's
Joe.
very good.
What's your choice number 2.
My second one is Destiny Hero Malicious 2 free.
Ooh,
Any reason as to why you might want this card to go to 3?
Because I bought 4 of them.
Oh, great. We
Oh,
know
that
Yeah,
makes
that.
no. No, what I think with this card is like we're seeing heroes are getting more support soon, I believe. Like
Power the
they
Elements?
do have some stuff coming out. I
That's
feel like
true.
Konami will be like, hey, let's try push them again. Malicious is a card where yeah, it's a good card, but it's not like any more broken than anything else at the moment, in my opinion. Yeah, it enables like a few more extra little loops here and there, but like I think give it a go. If worst comes to worst,
it is finally
put it
time
back
for
to
us to
2.
just admit that this card is not very good.
Yeah.
It's been a while, and I think it was really good 2 years ago. I think we're finally ready to admit this card is not good.
Yeah, because
mean-
that got put to 2, what, April 2020?
Literally the Master Rule 5.
Yeah, so
ban
April
list.
2020 it's been put to 2. Heroes have unfortunately done nothing, which is a shame. I mean, one hero card's done a lot. But,
I mean, they've
you know,
had consistent rogue success. You see
Yes.
them
Yeah.
top up,
Yeah.
and it's just on
hey,
the
it
basis
came
that
top 4 at our latest
yeah,
regional.
yeah, and it's on the basis that they interact really nicely with cards like Droplets, Super Poly, Tactics. All these cards that are really good in other decks are really good in Hero, and they have a clean OTK line. That's kind of the basis of the deck. It's not anything more than that, and I don't think Mali turns it into a combo deck again. I don't think Mali turns it into a viable control deck. I think it just sits at this weird mid-range of like a hard-going second deck that can't break boards, so it has to go first.
With a touch of insurance policy because you've got a third special.
I think the last time I used Malicious was like as a DPE engine with Denier and in my Despia build before Structure Deck.
Yeah.
And like that was a cool little like tech. I actually really
Yeah.
enjoyed it because you could like hard make DPE with Field Spell, which was quite interesting. But yeah, apart from that, it hasn't really seen any play. I feel like it goes to 3, it doesn't really change anything.
If you put
So
it to
it's-
3, it makes it more of a reliable splash. Because
Mm.
at 2, if you draw
1.
it's just kind of really bad. If you draw 2, then it's over. At least if you draw 2 when you're playing 3, you can still use it once.
Yeah.
And also, it just makes it more desirable because the 2 free bodies seems a lot nicer than 1. There's a lot of cards that give you 1 free body, and the reason Mali's always been flip-floppy is that getting 2 free bodies from 1 card,
Pretty good.
it's pretty good. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
There isn't another card in the game currently legal that does that, and so, you know, this card kind of would be in a class of its own. There wouldn't really be a replacement for it, just because I think everything else, the closest thing would be like Rite of Aramesia, and you are sacrificing your normal summon effect when you use that card if you want the 2 bodies. So, yeah,
Give
I think
it a go.
I think 3's fine. I don't think there's a shell right now that breaks this card, but it is worth keeping in mind that like future Link spam decks will absolutely shotgun 3 of this card with no hesitation.
And you know what? I would like to see it.
Yeah, sure.
All right, Lucas, choice number 2.
Choice number 2. From this point on, I don't think I have anything particularly standard. So we'll
Here
get
we go.
the probably second most meta one out of the way. I want Harpy's Featherstorm banned. I still want to ban. Much like Scythe, I think this card exists to be a problem when it's a problem. There is currently one deck in the format that is still abusing this card, and the minute
Does
they
it
print
well. Yeah.
another Winged Beast deck, it is just going to play... Like, when are you going to build a Winged Beast deck, which is mostly them, and not play this card? It's an auto-include, because if you draw it going first, you win the game. And I think that, again, promotes lazy deck building, promotes lazy play patterns. It promotes greedy deck building as well, because when you're going first, you might just go like, it doesn't matter, I drew Harpy's Featherstorm, I'll just play like ass and lose to Nib, and then, oops, no, I just summon a Winged Beast, and nope, you can't play, haha. It's not cool, right? Like, the Scythe decks, when they open Scythe Fusion Destiny, and you're like, cool, man.
Work.
That was a fun game. Awesome. Glad you built your whole deck around this stupid interaction. While Harpy's Featherstorm isn't as, like, absolutely Helmet, you do have to build around it. You play a Winged Beast deck. I don't know, man. There's not many cards I like that have this text. I wish this was a continuous spell or trap, as opposed to a lingering trap. Just uninteractive as hell.
Normal trap. If you pop it, just dust.
Yeah. Honorary mention Dimension Shifter in the same category. I think that card should probably go as well. And maybe Droll as well, as cards that I think they're an unnecessary factor of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now. I think we have enough interaction that
What are you trying to say?
that
You don't
allow
like
you to
no cards.
cards that don't allow you to interact with them unless you draw exactly called by or cross out, God forbid, it's just not fun. And I think it could go and be replaced with just better interactive hand traps, like more.
Yeah.
If we banned Droll, you could print a card that still punishes people for searching.
I mean,
in
it's
a
kind of a
more
hand trap in
interesting
itself,
way.
isn't it? If you have a Harpies on field,
That's true. Yeah.
And also, they did print a card that punishes you for searching, called Bahalutia, the Grand Radiance.
Well, I don't think that card's off the mark. I think there is a thing that, like, a card that punishes you, like when Dragon Link have a hand that's like Boot Sector, a Search Tracer, a White Dragon Wyverburster, a known Levy, or whatever. If you could just hit them with like shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 4 right now. That messes up their combo in a cool way that doesn't just say, yeah, you never should have tried because you were playing Dragon Link and I drawed you. That's it. Like, again, I didn't deserve that win. I just drew draw, and they're like, yeah, you drew draw. Get rid of it. Harpy's Featherstorm, not draw, but the effect of lingering things is painful.
I'm with you.
All right, my choice number 2, kind of following Joe's vein here. I'd love to see a card put 3, and that would be Servant of Endymion. We have Dimension Force coming out in a week, and I think that it's fun. It would be cool to see some Pendulum stuff revive. We're getting beyond the Pendulum, getting the awesome Odd-Eyes Pendulum Dragon, extra Pendulum. You literally Pendulum summon twice.
That's true.
I think that there's
Forgot about that card.
I think that there's a lot of cool strategies, and Servant of Endymion again kind of died for the sins of the toss format because they couldn't Pendulum Magician, the next best deck, clearly in the top 5. So I think that this card's probably stayed at 1 for, I would say, long enough.
Yeah.
They never adjusted the pendulum mechanic. They have, in fact, probably actively tried to make it a bit more effective. So I think that this card coming back probably gives me a bit of hope. Or like this card, if this card were to come back, would give me a bit of hope and revitalize the pendulum strategy that kind of knew 2018.
I think that definitely goes along the same sort of vibe as the Malicious one, right? Like there's support coming out. I know a lot of Pendulum players are really hyped about the new card in Difo. But yeah, we definitely need to see some of that stuff come back off because at the moment Pendulum feels quite flat in a way. I don't know if you guys feel the same about that. Like it doesn't really put up enough.
Activerte, and it's like the 7th best deck to do so.
Yeah, Servant lets you play the main deck negates again, which is fun. My only issue with Servant as a deck was that it was very uninteractive. Literally, again, I just argued against the existence of Droll, but it was like Droll or bust. No other hand trap did anything. And it would also play a large suite of sphere modes or dark rulers as their sideboard tech, so like they could just break any board and then do the same thing, set up a bunch of negates. Servant in particular was always the card that if they opened it, it was lights out because they just got a negate before you could Nibiru them. And it really coincided with all of the cantrip spells.
That's, I think, my thinking is that like those are gone. You can't play 3 Into the Void. You can't play 3 Desires.
My thinking is Rite of Aramesia, if that stayed at 3, provides you with 2 spell counters. Just a thought is in that interaction. You still play Magician Souls in Pendulum 2, so it's basically...
It's only 2 if you activate.
Which you do. Like if you were getting off a Servant effect, if you just go right, Draco back, other scale, you then have a Servant. And then if you have Souls, which you play at 3 in Pendulum, or 6, or 9, if you have preps, then you can send the adventure stuff just to draw 2 cards. And it would still be kind of like the old Pendulum deck where you're just slamming a bunch of draw spells and cantrips together and just plowing through hand traps / doesn't lose to hand traps and then setting up like 7, 8 negates.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting at least.
Got a lot better.
Board Breakers got better, yeah.
They definitely did.
Of course, Dark Ruler existed, but tactics, droplets. I mean, we're now seeing Artemis Slay coming out in Power of the Element. There's a lot of stuff that I think can interact with it. So I think a Servant would at least maybe not to 3, but to 2. Just at least
boost the consistency a bit. Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Astrograph came back to 1 and has essentially done not.
I guess the thing with Astrograph is it doesn't represent a negate. It's a combo extender. Servant was just kind of like, it was kind of the Rite of Aramesia of its day, right? It just put out a Jackal King before 5th summon. And
The
then
door
you
was Servant open.
kind of, right? And I would like, if they were to bring back Servant, maybe a bit more spell counter synergy, like a deck actually built around the idea of spell counter monsters, because currently that deck just didn't lock itself out of any generic extra deck stuff, and I think that was what made it
A bit
kind of
broken,
miserable
yeah.
to play against, is just
Well,
it
I
would
think-
use every broken Link monster printed.
I remember I played
yeah.
that 60 card like pendulum deck that had like 7 different engines and it used to just make like a 7 negate board, and you can't do that with 6 cards back then. So like, I think now with droplets and stuff, it probably would be able to be broken, but like at the same time, they need to be careful. But I did have Electromite and Mermaid and stuff, so I guess
Stuff's gone.
stuff's gone. Yeah.
I think it's time to bring a bit back.
There's an emergent aspect of Pendulum as a going second / mid-range deck that I really like, and I don't want it to go back to being Triff 12 negate boards. I'd rather it was like these kind of more interesting interactive boards that utilize tagging out your Pendulum monsters into other things. And to be honest, the new Odd Eyes is exactly that. The new Odd Eyes is super, super cool. I'd love more cards like that, where it negates a spell and then floats into Vortex and then kind of continues through a chain of interruptions that isn't necessarily an unbreakable board with 17 negates and also a barrier statue somehow, or they used to play Sloth off of LP and things like that. That was miserable.
That's all gone.
I mean, Scythe still around, stuff like that.
Well, not for long, apparently, according to our choices.
Yeah.
Hopefully not for long.
Joe, what's number 3?
Controversial one. But I will have Denglong to 1.
Yeah,
And
I mean, let us know.
I think it might just be me on the copium here, but like with Ghost from the Past 2 reprinted 9 Pillars, I was a bit like, maybe they're thinking about it.
So OCG have it.
OCG have it.
Yeah.
And I
They never
know
banned it, right?
No, I don't think they did. But then the thing is as well, like we're seeing an OCG. Like I know the deck that will use it will be Sword Soul, right? It's Sword Play, right? But Sword Soul's not up the top of the OCG, and I don't know if it would break it too much here in the TCG because it makes Sword Soul go down a whole different line. And maybe set up differently. It might be too broken. We'll have to find out. But why not give it a go for a format? That's my main thinking with it. Is like, it might add a bit of spice to that deck rather than just being break your board and summon a Moye.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it makes sense. I don't, off the top of my head, recall that Yangzing have any spell trap searches except for Denglong. So it does interestingly, open up doors for stuff like 9 Pillars so strong at the time. I think again, like lumping your board with 2 tuners is a wee bit interesting for me. Like if you were to simply like special Atenyi, specifically Adhara, and then Moye token, you are then left with 5 tuner and a 4 tuner token on board. So I'm not really kind of open with. I'm sure someone will let me know. I'm sure all the reasons why Denglong is the most problematic card that ever existed. But I just, off the top of my head, don't see like anything more formidable than what they were kind of currently ending on.
My argument against it, because I did kind of raise issue with Denglong, because I think Sword Soul's the second best deck this format behind Branded. So in my eyes, giving them one of the best Worm synchros ever printed at this current moment is probably unnecessary. Like they definitely don't need it. And I sort of disagree with the notion that wouldn't be good. Not because I think there's like a turn 1 setup that's reliable that always gets you to like the normal Sword Soul board plus 9 Pillars plus a float into Herald, like the classic thing that Yang used to do. However, there are a lot of instances in Sword Soul where you do have odd levels in rotation. Sometimes you get hand trapped in a specific way, and there are a ton of times in which a generic 5 that was okay would actually come up. Sometimes you are left with a negated Moye on field and an Adhara, like they imperm your Moye, and then you're just like, well, I'll just make Denglong. Now I've got a 5 tuner that searches me a counter trap that also floats into a negate, and then also I've got a long one, and now I've got Baron, which is an Omni, a counter trap, which is an Omni, and a Herald, which is an Omni.
You don't have the Herald, though. That's not how this deck works. You have to have a level 2 on board to make Herald, because your whole point of that strategy was you would you would 9 pillars pop Denglong to summon Chiwen, and then Chiwen would make your Herald.
Right.
So you have to end on an additional level 2 to make a Herald.
Right. But even without the Herald, like
again, without the Herald, that's all I'm
It's
saying.
just
it's
It's not theory.
no, but it's like I don't think there's a particularly strong cost to include a Danglong package in your Sword Soul deck, and it's already a really good deck. It's like giving back what's a deck that's lost something recently that is still good? Like Tri-Brigade getting Trident back or something. Yeah. It's just kind of like, they don't need it. They're already good. If the deck is ever floundering, if the archetype or type worms needs help, then I think Denglong is really cool to bring back. And I think it does cool stuff, and like it rewards you for playing a synchro strategy, which is inherently a bit of a handicap compared to Link, other strategies that get support. So it's a cool card. I just don't know if right now when Sword Soul is really good, it would probably put Sword Soul, at least higher in the contention for being the best deck if they just had an easy access to Denglong, because Omni counter traps are really good. They are really, really good when you can play them in good decks.
The other deck that could benefit from it would be a Pendulum deck using the Zephyr engine. Like if they brought a Denglong back, maybe
that would be cool.
To benefit from it. Yeah,
Zephyr is a sick card.
Yeah, so that's another thing we could look at as well. Is like it is another boost to Pendulum, and I think that the card is relatively. I mean, Search isn't Omni Negate, but apart from that, outside of it, in Sword Soul, I don't know if it does much more. Like, and I guess I know what you're scared about.
It doesn't make Sword Soul broken. It's just like,
is it
necessary?
They need it,
right?
Yeah.
Do they need help right now? And they're really good.
All right, Lucas, number 3.
Number 3. So the rest of my kind of choices, including the painful choice, are just to support decks that I think are currently not doing so well, or maybe not doing so well in the very near future, and therefore this is sort of a more safe time to investigate these as cards. So the first one, and again this might be controversial, is to put the Chaos Dragons, the babies, to 2, both of them. So this was unsafe for a long time because Dragon Link is just like an insanely powerful deck. However, the deck has now just been put in massive check in the meta by Branded with the new Alba Lenitus fusion, as well as the fact that Dragon Link has not been performing as a top tier deck for a while. And the reason that I think the Chaos Dragons can come back is I actually want to see, I think there are a lot of pieces for a competent Chaos deck that are not currently working well together. And I think these cards in particular are super important for triggering banished effects, getting bodies on board, keeping a hand full of cards so you actually have resources to use. So I think they'd be cool to bring back. Like, I think a Chaos Thunder deck would be a fun thing to introduce into the meta, and these would certainly help with that. But I could hear an argument that this is still too good for Dragon Link. With Chaos Space, it does feel like they already have 4 copies of each of these, so it's not like it's a huge consistency boost, adding 1 more. But yeah, what do you guys think?
Why was it limited to begin with? It was Chaos Thunder, correct? That was the strategy that got it limited?
Maybe.
It
Yeah.
went to... It might have gone to 2 back in like the Shadow Denko format, maybe, and then it went down from there.
I don't think they should be at 3 because I think the endless train of dudes is probably too.
It's probably too
you
good.
can only summon them once per turn.
Yes,
they are. They do have a restriction. They aren't free fodder.
Yeah, but I think at 2 they're very balanced, and OCG's had them at 2 for a while, and I think it hasn't broken their format to have this more than once. Just the idea that it gives you the opportunity to follow up your plays next turn. You don't just use these once and then they're gone, and also you're more likely to open them. They're really good enablers for some interesting decks. Cards like Chaos Creator, cards like Chaos Neptis, they just haven't seen a deck yet, and I really want them to be in a deck because they're super fun cards that reward creative deck building.
I think you could be right. I mean, it's something I haven't thought about, but like at the same time, I don't really see much of an issue with it. I feel like Chaos is a deck that we have discussed off podcast before about why that deck isn't doing so good, and it's because they need more fodder, right? They need something.
They don't have starters, and these are like the best things in the deck, right? Because these just synergize with, you've already got a hand trap engrave, or you're able to mill a light or a dark. These suddenly enable at least 2 bodies on field, which is a good way to get started without committing a normal. Cards like Armageddon Knight and Dark Grepher just aren't good enough anymore, so I think cards like this represent a more modern take on the deck.
Yeah, I can see it.
I can see it too.
I'm not too scared. I think that the Chaos Dragons are kind of fine. Again, like, these were commons and It's
Yeah.
not really. You can tell
Yeah.
that the design for them wasn't be like a crazy power level.
No.
They are
Yeah.
very balanced in design. Can't obviously Chaos Monsters. They can summon once per turn. Their search. So
If there's some
That makes
unthinkable combo that we haven't or we've missed on any of our cards, by the way, just feel free to like
Please.
let us know in the comments. Like let us know on Facebook
There
or
is
wherever you want.
there is definitely a Danglong combo for Sword Soul.
There probably
also.
is,
Like,
yeah.
it is in the
I'm
OCG.
sure there's also a server.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like there's
definitely.
also,
Yeah.
I believe there is also like a reliable Auroradon the OCG people are doing with Danglong, and that is also a little scary. Just as like,
Yeah.
Sword Soul again don't need help with Auroradon; they're already pretty good with that card, so you know, stuff to think about. Ruben,
All right. My number 3. We're at 3. Yeah, we're at 3.
or 3, yeah.
I think my third one's gonna be Night Assailant 3. This is actually, it might seem scary, but did just receive an errata in Japan, so
Yeah,
I
easy.
think that realistically, another card. Again, I'm a huge fan of the idea of cleaning up lists, getting stuff off.
It'll be errated here too, so might as well put it to
the
3.
Hidden Arsenal print wasn't, which is obviously its most recent printing, but I think that sooner rather than later will like an OTS print where it's common and it's got your update.
Or if not, it's still fine. This is just a free discard fodder that technically can go infinite with itself. Who's doing that?
I would like to see it.
You ever heard of a hand trap? You ever heard of any interrupt at all? Yeah, it just seems like so weak.
Yeah.
And what are you even doing with that loop? In case, like, stalling out a game, you can't do that.
Yeah. There's no Maxi, so whatever. Like,
easy.
yeah. I think
Joe,
there's-
number 4?
I've had this one before. I think it might have been my Snatch deal a while ago. And then last list, it was on my Painful Choice, and it's there
Creeping
again.
up.
It's Ptolemaeus. And put it to 1. I don't think we need it any more than that. I feel like Tellarknight needs a bit of love. They've been gone for a while now. They don't really do it enough.
Card sucks in Tellarknights, by the way. Like, nowadays, they're too slow. They like can't even summon this turn 1 reliably.
Just thinking about it now, do the Exorcists do they lock you at all or into?
So only Malfa does.
Okay.
The Searcher.
But again, like if you're committing to putting 3 regular Exorcists on,
It's probably not worth it.
Yeah.
Like, right?
Not
You wouldn't
worth
play
it
it.
over stuff like Magnica, Caspel, and
We have Utopic Draco
and
Future now.
Michaelis.
Which,
do
if you can commit 3 level 4s, you can commit 2 rank 4s. It's basically, there are
Same
enough
thing.
rank 4s that reborn stuff
Yeah,
to
What does this
generically
give you?
make Utopic Draco.
an Omni Negate. I'm
An
pretty
Omni
sure
Negate,
it's
yeah.
still no.
Yeah, there's nothing better
Infinity,
than Infinity. That's still
No.
the best.
Yeah.
Right?
So I mean,
like
to me, rank 4 decks as well.
Ptolemy.
Like,
No,
Constella Ptolemy.
Oh,
we're not actually seeing that many rank 4s in the format either. Like, that's kind of the thing that's gone. We sometimes see Dweller, Babushka, those sorts of cards pop up, but like, when do you ever have like 3 level 4s on board and go, what should I make?
It's laughable because we have Utopic Draco Future, which has an inherent negate, right? Like, it has it. This card, you could summon it, 3 level 4s, and go effect. Your opponent goes
negate.
Baylor, and you go pass.
Yeah.
You know, like, this card doesn't even have a negate when it's summoned, and it takes 3 level 4s. Nowadays, if you saw a rank 3 that took 3 level 4s, you'd expect it to win you the game. It's like, we've moved on so far from that being a reliable asset, so I think this could go to 3. It's like not a problem.
No, and it's also my hope of Tellarknight support as well. So
someday,
yeah, Bartlemias, All right, Lucas, number 4.
All right, so continuing the theme of decks that I think are bad and also aren't necessarily going to break stuff, it's Teratopter 2 as well. And I have a couple of reasons for this. I think Speedroid is underperforming despite receiving 7 waves of support, and God forbid they get any help. Teratop is by far the best card in that deck to start you, because Takatomborg in itself is so broken in that deck. And I also think 3-axis in the TCG has routinely underperformed compared to the OCG. It is not as big of a problem as it is over there. And yeah, like, this card will be played in Pile. What isn't? Phantom Knights might experiment with playing it again. Who cares? It just doesn't feel like a card that is going to particularly break anything already good.
No.
But it does help out Speedroids, and it does help out 3-axis as a strategy, both of which I think are kind of fun. I'm just here for it. I think it would be a cool card to experiment with. MX Saber Invoker's banned still. that would be a problem. It wasn't.
What rank 3s were we making?
Yeah.
Gossip, Shadow, or Fortune?
Yeah, so I
Was
played
that
this I played this in Virtual World for exactly that reason,
Yeah.
and it was good.
I'll break sword.
If I could play 2 and 1 of like 2 Terratop, 1 Takatomborg, I might go back to playing it instead of Adventure. Well, it's kind of less cumbersome. You could play more going second cards and still technically have a Nibiru out. But I don't think so. I think like there's so many better things you can do than this card, and you still have to play a brick in your deck, which is something we're all doing, but for reasons that are stronger than making a rank 3 for free. So we can pop this guy up to 2, probably 3.
Monster negate that also draws your opponent a card. Wow, that's terrifying.
Probably 3, but start
also like
see how it goes.
With a emergency teleport being at 3 in that, and they have that psychic engine already, like
we've already got E-Telly to 3.
You know, whatever. Like I think that's fine. I don't really see much of a problem with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite. My number 4. This one's. I'm gonna go back.
Okay.
So my number 4 hit will be Rite of Aramis 1.
Ooh.
I think this for me is the only logical hit for Adventure. Simply the only card you can interact bar cross. Of course, we've dedicated ourselves to being in a cast. No,
not anymore. So I quit that stuff.
I think that realistically, I'm not. I think in terms of like diversity, it's something that's promoted. I mean, I think at least like right to 1, the deck's still functionable. You can still get it back with Water Enchantress, have a grave or deck for some reason. And I think realistically, this being hit would probably be a buzz. It may go to 2, and that's totally fine by me. I think out of the 2 enablers of the deck, be the one that I would choose. But I think to me, I like to go 1.
You could go 1 and 3 or 2 and 2, and it's like the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of the same buzz. Realistically, this one isn't like a kill the engine. It's just like a hit the card. It's not really.
This is a funny one because it's not like a Called by the Grave where you can put it to 1 and people would still play it in the TCG. I think if you put every piece of the Adventure Engine to 1, no one would play it. So it's kind of. Japan will play 1. They literally played 1 game.
They still play 1 game on 1.
Just the most baffling decision around limited cards I've ever seen. Here, no one would do it. It's just not worth playing 2 Garnets and 2 starters. 3 Garnets and 2 starters if you play Draco back. So I think this is a delicate thing. I don't necessarily like the adventure package. I don't necessarily hate the adventure package as much as some people. A lot of people over-exaggerate how repetitive it is. It is used differently in every deck. But I think, like Snow, there's just no real cost for running it in some decks because it's also Synchro Extenders, it's also Link Extenders, it's also a Negate, also removal. It just kind of, it could be 9 hand traps or it could be the adventure package. And it doesn't really feel particularly different doing either one. Yeah. And I think that, if anything, promotes homogeneity in that you don't have to make as many tough decisions when building your deck.
No, you go, can my deck play adventure? Yeah, cool, I'll put it in.
Can I out Mystic Mine? Yeah, I got Draco back. You know, there's just too many, I guess I'll just do this because the engine does it for me and holds my hand through the whole thing. You should be using your deck to break boards, not a card.
Engine, yeah.
Or if you're using a card, it should be a card with realistic downsides.
Yeah, my take on Adventure is eventually it needs to go completely. Like, it's one of those things where if you keep pieces too, like, I guess, accessible, you will still see it being played. Maybe not the 1/1/1 like they have in the OCG, but like it definitely is an issue that needs to be hit.
I think if right goes to 1, people still play it. Like with
right now, yeah. I think my take is like I'm probably going to go more with the 2/2 thing, just because I think people might be upset that the $100 card or the $90 card or whatever right is goes down. Card, you know, like, and I guess in a way, I know you're losing still 2 cards. I don't know. From a market standpoint, like I would be quite like. Personally,
it is more of a feel good when you can play 2 and 2 than when you play 1 and 3, because you're looking at the 2 copies in your folder. Like,
well, that's 3 playsets now.
Me with Tanky, me with Instant Fusion, me Desires, with like all these nice desires. All these
desires.
These nice play sets that we've all bought. Me, Ruben, you, and you just kind of go, well, I guess I'll keep the 3, but it sucks to just not be able to play with them anymore.
Because it's so new though, and it's so expensive. Like people put out like $500-$600 to buy this engine to play. And
Yeah.
if you're like, if you had to like save to buy that engine or buy it piece by piece and put it all together, it takes a while, right? And like,
Yeah.
if that just gets like taken away from you straight away you don't feel like you had enough play with it, it's a bit rough. So that's why I think this list
Yeah.
is definitely going to touch the engine, but it's not
Yeah.
going to destroy the engine.
You do lose a bit of confidence in the game, sure, but I also think like you probably are savvy enough to understand
Yeah.
that this is
Oh, yeah.
If you're the kind of person who would spend $600 on an engine to play Yu-Gi-Oh, quote unquote, I don't think you're the kind of person that's unfamiliar with how this dance goes.
Yeah.
No.
Because maybe there's a couple rogue decks that can play Adventure, like Plunder,
Plunder.
that people would have
Great
like
example.
shelled out for and feel bad about. But if you're a meta player and you bought this, you knew it was getting hit. Like
The call was coming from inside the house.
And you're the kind of person who's used to spending that amount of money on cards, getting hit and going, I don't know, I'll play the next deck. That's your relationship with the
Yeah.
Or you sell it before the ban list and then you just kind of cash out to another deck. And there are people who do different things as opposed to people who save up. I can't imagine someone saving up weekly pocket money to buy an Adventure engine.
No.
So they can
I just think it's dangerous to hit something that expensive so soon.
Well, for a business,
Yeah. And I think again, like this is, Port, this is the only archetype from Grand Creators not going to empower the others.
Yeah.
So I think at minimum,
you also don't
by
have
August.
to hit it right now because it is not the best deck anymore. So
well, it's certainly converting.
It's part of a couple of the best
deck,
decks,
but it's probably converting enough to get
there are
on
at least
radar.
There are at least 4 decks that don't play it, and I think that's fine.
That's pretty good.
Joe, fifth choice.
Fifth and final choice.
Oh, I think actually this was my painful choice from my snatch shield from last one, but I had Secker's Light to 3 now as just part of my painful choice.
Yeah. Who's
Secker's
playing
Light
this card? I'm still saying that.
Monster Mash in this format? I don't know.
No, there's barely any good spells. I can't imagine a single spell card worth activating.
I don't even see like a Dragon Link deck or anything using this, like something that can just spam, or Chaos deck can't use this. Like it needs its Chaos spaces, it needs other cards. Like every deck you look at has you can't play your droplets, you can't play like any power spells, you can't play anything like that. Just let it happen. I don't care. Like there's really not a lot to talk about. But yeah,
you'd still activate Verte to get Branded Fusion or something when you've Sekker's Light. That's like the only stupid thing this card enables. But
then if Verte's gone,
scary. Yeah,
and also that deck
you have
can't
to
play
go into Verte as opposed to just activating Branded Fusion.
And then that deck can't play Called by Desires, Foolish Burial, Droplet, Chalice, Tactics,
Cross Out,
Rite of Aramesia, Cross Out, Branded Fusion. Like
it's just hand trap, sure, but like I just think it's time for it to come back. I don't think anyone will really blink. They'll be like, okay, cool, that's fine.
I think
someone will play
something. There'll be a week where everyone freaks out and someone will find a sick deck to play it in. And it might actually do some stuff, but it won't
as
be.
always,
let it happen.
I would like to see it.
Yeah.
Let it happen.
Right, Lucas, fifth and final choice.
Yeah, so on the list of controversial level 5 tuner synchros, Ib. Ib can come back 100% to 1. I think this card is due to come back, similar to how Servant got hit right at the kind of cusp of the Master Rule change because of fears of this deck being too good. And I think since Ib, we've seen 5 billion cards that are more powerful than Ib be abused. This card is not like... It's generic, but what it does is not generic. It's kind of like Danglong in the sense that it helps out specific decks who are willing to play the cards that it is required for. And it is also a World Chalice card, which is great for World Chalice. But unlike Danglong, I don't think there's a current deck that the shell makes total sense. I don't think Dragon Link would even play this with the DracoNet package anymore. That seems like a real old school thing when they have Chaos Space and
Chamber Dragon Mage, Starlight
so many better cards. And this helps World Chalice. This helps generic Synchro decks. This searches Monster Reborn or World Legacy Guard Dragon, which is another kind of Monster Reborn, but also it's like a toolbox card. And World Chalice is hella dead. So it would be nice to see that deck thrive because I think that deck is quite fun, interactive, and far be it from me to say it's not an oppressive deck when they build their board, but it's nothing close to what I think Full Power Adamancipator or anything like that did. It's nowhere. So this card can come back. Dragon Link was the reason it got hit, and I think Dragon Link
have had enough hits.
They've had enough hits, and I don't think they would cope enough to play this engine, or if they did, it would not be better than the other stuff they've been doing. So
much more now.
Yeah. Also, like there is no negate to it. The most effective one is like Sorrow's conditional counter trap. Like we think similar to like Dinglong, adding +1 is really powerful, but like they are searching conditional. They are searching conditional, it more so, and I think searching one is totally fine. There's no negate tacked on. There's no synchro tacked on. But I think that
and she's obviously broken. Like she goes +2, but
she's great.
It's not the kind of +2 that makes me gag like Rite of Aramesia. It's more fun to watch happen, and also every time she showed up, she did a different thing, and I think that's what makes it more exciting.
Absolutely,
it's a bit of a build around the card as well. Like you have to do quite a lot to like get it in your deck, and I guess like why do that when you can just activate right?
Yeah. I know it'll make Dino happy.
Yeah, indirect crawler support for Power of the Elements can search crawler.
That's true.
All good. So my fifth and final painful choice, and this will be because one. But realistically, this is probably the last bastion of that deck's success. Cutting the future spell, cutting so many prank cards, and realistic card advantage. So I don't really.
It feels like a really cursory slap because they often don't even need the second Dodo. It's kind of.
But it's like if you stop the one, then they don't have anything else.
Well, the deck's like barely doing Butler stuff. So
exactly,
and like stopping the Dodo, they're just like, yeah, all right, I'm making DP. I don't know what you thought I was doing. Like,
I guess
it goes.
Yeah, I guess it's a hit if Verte goes as well. Like I feel like that would definitely work.
Like, you can ogre the doodle and for another turn cycle. This is probably a hit.
I think maybe Meow Meow was the mistake, not Dodo, and that's just because it turned pranks into Zodiac 2, where it was just like any prank represents a bunch of interrupts and 3 draws out of nowhere. That, I think, to me, frustrates me more about the deck, in that it doesn't really feel like a deck. It feels like a normal summon engine that gets you a very specific linear end board, and there's nothing else to it, because it's a Link 1 that you can summon and gets you the whole board on its own. There was the Fafa tournament where you could only start with 1 card in your hand, and everyone played Prank Kids or Zodiacs, because those are the 2 decks where any of the cards do the same thing. And I think those are a bit problematic, especially for future, because those generally tend to be very splashable, as we've seen with Prank Kids and Zodiacs, both of which are just playing everything.
Yeah.
More than other decks. Like Pile is Pile, but Pile is also the culmination of good deck building, creative minds coming up with new lines with generic tools that we have. Kind of different from Prank Kids, where it's just like, what are we changing about the Prank Kid engine? Nothing.
Taking out one of each kid, apparently.
And then putting in all the other crap. That's it. Just chucking a bunch of spare parts in the engine.
I just personally want to see every Prank Kid player upset.
You want to make the kids cry?
You
want to make everyone look like dropsies?
Yeah.
That's fair.
I'm done with it. I'm just so sick of seeing
banning
that.
El Shaddai Construct again.
Yeah. And
Pog on that one too.
See what sad face did. Okay, these are our 5 choices.
Yeah.
I guess let's do a quick recap for those. So Joe, would you like to run us your 5 painful?
I mean, they're on the screen.
On the screen. I can't see them, but that's fine.
I know. Everyone else can see them at home.
I had Verte banned, Malicious to free, Denglong to 1, Ptolemaeus to 1, Seeker's Light to free.
All right, Lucas, what were your painful choices?
I chucked Scythe ban, Harpy's Featherstorm ban, Ib to 1, Collapse Serpent and Wyverburster to 2, and Terratop to 2.
Okay, and mine were Snow ban, Servant to 3, Night Assailant 3, Right Aramesia to 1, and Dodo to 1. I guess we'll start with Joe. Lucas, out of Joe's
Verte.
5 painful...
Yeah, there you go.
It's Verte, obviously.
I will choose Denglong.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, cool.
So next, Lucas. Joe, out of Lucas's 5...
I'm actually going to go with the Chaos Dragon one. I quite like that. I think that's a pretty cool little boost, because I know that
precedent.
dragons are about to just get completely wiped. I
don't,
don't like Dragon Link, but like I feel like I want it for Chaos, not for Dragon Link. I want Chaos to be a deck.
It is worth saying Dragon Link will find an end board that doesn't lose as hard to the Alba stuff. So it's not like the deck is dead, but they can't play the dragon end board anymore.
Yeah.
And I think those
Pretty-
were the
pretty
reasons the
rough.
deck was good. So
And I think out of your 5, I will Harpy Storm.
yeah,
Myself.
it wouldn't be wrong to see that card bite the dust. I feel like it's a little late. They should have done it last list when it was actually topping, because now it would feel weird. But yeah, anytime's a good time, Konami.
100%.
Anytime. No one's saying Scythe. Hilarious.
I mean, I want Scythe, but it was just
Yeah, you want
more
Scythe,
interesting
so.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Joe, of Ruben's 5, which would you pick?
Doodle do because I don't like prank kids.
Fair enough. I'd pick Right because I don't like Adventure. Awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, yep, that's our painful choice. So we've each run it over. So those you following along, I hope the decisions well, and we'd love to hear them.
But stick around.
But stick around.
There's
because
more.
We now have our Snatch Steal game. The segment take one card, a la Snatch Steal, limited and then banned within the next. This is a card that is currently banned and would put to 1 to just see how it feels in the format and see how it fares out. So, Joe, what is your Snatch Steal this?
I have Cyberjar to 1. Yep.
I guess I'm buying Prediction Princess if that happens.
I guess I'm buying more copies of Sol and Luna because that would be funny.
I think
Sure, yeah, why not?
it would be
bad.
the card's slow, right? Like it's a flip effect monster.
So
Card is
slow.
terrible.
This card's
But-
so slow.
If you resolve it, it would just
Funny.
cause chaos in the game, and that's what I want to see,
point.
right? I think
It's
it would be
still a point.
hilarious. Like, Millen,
it's
is it Millen
likely-
top 5, and then you special summon them all? Like,
And then you add the others you don't
and you
special
add the
summon.
others you don't
The,
special.
the
yeah.
silly thing about this card is everyone would just be adding 5 spell traps. Like, you could just build a whole deck that was only Cyberjar and stuff to enable it and just draw into, like, every
Honestly.
broken spell trap in the entire game.
But
I'm
there's
down to
just
see
so
it.
much
I just want to see that
target
chaos.
removal. There's so much
Oh, yeah,
stuff
this
that
card's-
doesn't involve battling. Like Cyberjar is
Card's
old.
ass. The funny reason to bring this back is if your opponent was just dumb enough to attack into a face-down monster and go like, oh, I'm not going to remove that, I don't care, and they just lose to Cyberjar.
Yeah.
But they'll probably just go like, I don't know, Brawn Negate.
I mean, to be
Yeah.
honest, it could probably even be put in the painful choice. Like when I think about it, like
I
because
don't know why I
Mirror,
put it to 2, actually.
you just like
put it to 3.
put it to 3, yeah, whatever,
Yeah.
yeah, done.
It's not good at 1. You might as
No.
well have 3.
Prediction Princesses. Play Prediction Princess. Make people cry.
That would be funny.
Yeah.
But then you were
Yeah.
playing Prediction Princess, which is probably the core
Not
issue
very good.
in your life at that point.
Yeah. Had of ill omen.
Yep.
All right. Lucas, what is
Yeah.
yours?
Well, we were forced to pick something, and I wanted to focus on my theme of enabling cool decks, and just ignore all the other decks that could play this card. Don't worry about it. This is a plant card. I think this card will be fun in plants. It's Dandelion. Ignore this one. It's a plant. I think it would be cool if Sun Avalons and the plant link deck that is currently like doing stuff had Dandelion. Do I think that would be the best place for Dandelion? Hell no. But it's funny, and I think
Yeah.
that deck would really appreciate the card. So
I mean, it's a shame you can't put like a stipulation on the ban list where you're like, this card can only be used in this
X
deck.
deck.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, you
kind
could
of how,
errata it. You could say you're locked
Yeah.
into plants
Yeah,
for
kind
the
of
rest
like
of the
how
turn.
Magic back in the day. It's like these cards are banned, but if you play the precon they're in card for
Right,
card,
yeah.
you can
It's
play
like a
it.
dual link skill. It's like if
Yeah.
70% of your deck is made of plants, you can play this.
Yeah.
Because the obvious problem with plants is not their lack of extenders, but their lack of payoffs. And one of the reasons they have a lack of payoffs is because all of their best extenders lock them into plants. So if they had this as an early send, they could make at least an Appaloosa to beat Nibiru, and that would be neat.
Or force the Nibiru. Then
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the best deck that would play this would be some stupid pile deck that is using it to make Hulk and stuff. So I'm not saying this is like a good idea, but it would be
It's a
fun
valuable
for the
choice.
deck that
I mean,
I like.
Snatch
Yeah,
Steal.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a snatch deal,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
My Snatch Steal is a bit more. This is a card that I think.
I don't know why you picked this one. I can see
Bro,
it
I'm
right
just
now.
living. I'm just feeling my oats, and I'm just like, you know what? Why not? My Snatch Steal is Cold Wave,
Cool.
and I think that at one, this card is probably not a problem. Like,
Didn't I just talk about how I hate lingering effects that you can't interact with? What the hell?
I think that there's a lot of really good back row in basically every deck at this moment in time, and this list was to not happen, and the only Cold Wave to one is Cold Wave better than Rite of Aram? I don't actually know. I think that there's a lot of interaction points that really
I think like
promote. I mean, I just think that there's a lot of other back row cards that you play. You know, your Dusters, your Twins, your set Blackouts, you know, Impermanences, Chalices that can't be done. And I think that Cold Wave is kind of like me, that it's at one, it's kind of a gimmick, and it's reciprocal. You both can't activate spells and traps. Format now where, you know, you just kind of like, it's no longer like a attack set to pass kind of game. You literally just OTK with monsters. So I'm not really sold on Cold Wave as a thematic card, simply for the fact that this is no longer well, you know, attack with my TKR I normal pass because I can't see it. No, that's not really that.
I think the card is way stronger. I think you're underlooking. Like when Cold Wave was legal, the format was slower, and you actually got to turn 4, and you could use your spell cards. I think there's a realistic chance if your opponent drops a Cold Wave on you, you are not activating spells or traps for the entire game if it resolves.
You'd have to play a Monster Mash, I think.
You could probably build a good Monster Mash deck playing 3 Cold Wave if it was at 3. I guess.
I'm not putting.
Sure.
No,
and then like you go Cold Wave, full combo, and your opponent goes, "Yeah, man, you just shockmastered me for spells and traps. I can't do anything." It's very unfair. If you open it and then are able to just monster combo, which I think is very easy.
I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking like it seems like there's too many. There's too many like like beneficial search spells that can be found throughout combos. Like if you were to not open perfectly in Sword Soul, you wouldn't end on a problematic board and black. You look at like pile decks, you can't activate the Basil Row Shoot, you get off Ruck. So you're then locked out of something. The Prank Kids, you literally can't play. Like, or some Verte. And I think that realistically, there's a lot of good, like, Konami have designed a lot of really good spells, go strategies. So, board breaker.
Yeah.
You can't set your, you know, your Chalice terms because you literally just can't. So.
I think at 1, this card would be fringe. It would just see side deck play like Red Reboot, just as like, it's like a generic, like, go second against back row card. At 3,
I think it's even.
I think it would go in the same slot, like this and Red Reboot, as very similar cards that just say, yeah, back row deck, get owned. Did you have Stolen Judgment? What responses are there other than Judgment to Cold Wave?
But like that doesn't matter because your decision there is not put in back row removal because Cold Wave prevents you from anything proactive.
You still put in like, if it was at 1, I feel like you just put in like, I'll put in my Cosmics and then I'll just put in a Cold Wave. And if I draw Cold Wave, none of their back row matters and I just win. I think at 3, it would be a build around that would be a huge problem.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Because at 3, you could actually build an entire deck that was just monsters and then play 3. There are enough good monsters that you could sacrifice the spells and traps. And unlike Sekka's Light, this literally shockmasters your opponent for 2/3 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Way better payoff than Sekka's Light. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Cold Wave. I think it's watching a lot of historical Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. It generally results in feel bad scenarios where your opponent goes Cold Wave and you go, oh yeah, sure. Oh, I lose. Yeah, that's fine.
Pretty better present.
I would like to see it.
Give it a go. Yeah.
There's more monster effect. That was back in the time where like most interaction was trap cards.
That's kind of my thinking.
Yeah. I don't know. Cards like Red Reboot or to a lesser extent like Dark Ruler aren't my favorites. I think there are more fun ways to break boards. But it's fine. It's probably honestly, this card is at the very least its main phase 1 start restriction.
Yeah,
at least basically gives it a hard once per turn, even though it doesn't technically have one. So that's also kind of relevant compared to cards like Raigeki or Harpy's Feather Duster. Yeah.
Well,
wow.
This is our first video.
Hopefully this doesn't break. Yeah, this is just a complete wing it on the day kind of thing.
And if worse comes to worse and you're not watching a video, at least there's an audio recording to go with it.
There is, yeah.
That's true.
So we've got content for you.
The next thing I guess is we gotta hope that the ban list doesn't come out tonight or the next day. You know,
it'll be kind of fun.
We're currently recording 9th of May.
I don't think it will. I think it's gonna wait till after Difo.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
But
I think it'll probably be like the week really.
Yeah, I think so too.
Probably.
It'll be in the next few months.
In the next few months.
Yeah. It'll be within the next few months.
Next few months.
Yeah.
You know, thanks so much, Konami, for giving us definitive.
Yeah.
Kind of.
We've got
free
Just quickly, I'll say that we got a Sushi Nights event this weekend. I think there's a regional down in Christchurch as well. The Sushi Night event is capped out at 40 players and they're all booked, so it's going to be a huge event. I'm going down there to judge. Looking forward to that. Steve will be putting on a good tournament.
Yeah. And you can catch us in person the next
weekend after.
So we'll be at Card Merchant Hamilton competing at the 3v3 as team face downs that 2/3 of us are wearing. And I think that we're excited to see everyone there. It was super awesome to speak to everyone in Dunedin. So we look forward to coming down to Hamilton and playing some games. For hopefully some new Dimension Force cards as well. Try out some new strategies everyone's talking about. That we're excited to see some more kind of just amping up. We've state championships coming in June, so I think that's so exciting for those who seek. Hopefully, where this ban list comes into effect, so you can practice a brand new high event. But yeah, as always, thank you so much to everyone who has listened along and joined us. So the painful choice. Have enjoyed this video and you are watching us on YouTube video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and share it with a friend. It helps too. If you are joining us on your audio platform, so anywhere you enjoy your podcast, please feel free to rate and review us. It also helps out. And if you have a particular card you would like to see adjusted, as well as any queries or concerns, or crack-headetry thoughts as to why Ruben would bring back Cold Wave to 1, please email us at thefacedowns@gmail.com. I think we even have a couple of audience submissions. I'd love to.
Yeah, we forgot to do that.
But we can do it another time.
We totally normally ask people for their own painful choices.
But next time. That's okay. You can follow us on Twitter. Those will be linked in the description as well as displayed on the video that will be on YouTube. And be sure to head to Card Merchant Hamilton next weekend. Join us for a double-header week of a 3v3 event as well as a Battle of Chaos Regional.
I was going to say, if they don't drop the ban list soon, we could milk the content even further and do another episode where it's fan submissions. How about that?
Absolutely. And I love hearing people's opinions anyways. And thank you so much for listening. My name is Ruben.
I'm Lucas.
And I'm Joe.
And you've been listening to
The Face Downs.
Even on video, we can't do it. I'm so upset.
Done.